We may not be alone, but we feel more lonely. We've been talking about that over the course of the last few weeks. 3 out of 5 people would say that they feel more lonely than maybe ever before. That's based on a UCLA loneliness index. We've been talking about the fact that the Surgeon General of the United States actually said that we are in the midst of an epidemic of loneliness. That loneliness is actually killing us. And if you missed the first 4 parts, you should go back and watch them. But I've been encouraging you that meaningful relationships aren't something that you fall into. They're something that you have to fight for. That you've got to look for meaningful relationships in your life. And we've been talking about how do you find them? How do you foster them? How do you build them? But today I want to talk about something a little bit different. You see, our souls aren't just dying, I would argue, because of loneliness, but they're also dying because we're never alone. Let me kind of take a survey today, and really I want you to join us. At home you can join us. You go out for lunch with a friend. Let's say you go for burritos. That sound good? Okay, we'll have Mexican. And you end up going out for coffee after, and you're sitting at the table, one across the other. And your friend says to you, not surprisingly, I'm going to have to use the washroom. And you say, okay, and so they go to the washroom, and you're sitting there at the table by yourself. How many people here, now be honest, would take out your phone while you waited? Put your hand up. Yeah, pretty much everybody, right? Now, let's say you and your friend go out for burritos. Now be honest, the two of you are sitting there for coffee afterwards. You're going to the washroom because, burritos. How many of you take your phone with you? Put your hand up, be honest. Sure, lots of us. We don't take it there to keep it in our pocket, do we? I want to ask you a different kind of question. Do you remember what boredom was like? When is the last time that you've truly been bored? When's the last time someone else drove a car, you sat in the passenger seat, and all you did for 30 minutes was stare outside and watch the world go by? When is the last time you sat by yourself, no phone, no anything, for an hour and thought, man, I just don't even have anything to do? Do you remember boredom? Some of you are old enough to remember boredom. When you stood in the line at the grocery store on a Friday and everybody wasn't doing this, everybody was looking around, seeing each other, probably smiling at each other, who knows? People, when they sat at the mall while they waited for someone to shop, just watch people walk by. Remember the day we used to be bored? That day doesn't exist anymore. Cal Newport wrote a great book I've referred to before called Digital Minimalism, and he says, we live in a digital attention economy. That digital devices, screens in our world, are constantly screaming for our attention. 2007 is the year that changed everything. If you don't know what 2007 is, it's the year that our kids and our kids' kids and our kids' kids' kids will be talking about in history class in the future. It's the day Steve Jobs released one of these in 2007. It's also the day that that year that Facebook went from being something that happened on college campuses to something that was open to everybody. It's also the year when Twitter started to become something that was more and more common, 2007, the beginning of the digital revolution. The day that for all of us, everything changed. Now, there's been an exciting part of that. I remember the first time I FaceTimed my parents. I remember, man, I can actually text a photo to someone of what we're doing right now. I've got my music and my phone in the same place. I don't have to have my Walkman and my rotary phone. See, some of you know. Some of you know. Some of you are like, never heard of it. Right? But it was all in the same place. It was a digital revolution, and there was something exciting about it. But there's something about it that we know is not right for us. There's something about it that I don't need stats. I could put them all up, but I had all these stats together, and I'm like, I do not need stats to convince you that the digital revolution has not been all good for us. That there's something on the inside of us, in our souls, that says, man, something has changed. Sean Parker, who was the first official president of Facebook, this is a quote from him about the invention of Facebook and all of these apps. He says this: the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them, was all about, get this, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? And that means that we need to sort of give you a dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a phone or a post or whatever. Our attention spans are slowly shrinking, statistics would say, and dopamine or escape with a screen, I would argue, are our drug of choice. That when we feel pain, or we feel sadness, or we feel angry, or you feel stressed, or you feel upset, subconsciously, maybe now, you got to pick this up. You got to get home and put on Netflix. You got to grab a screen. You've got to escape instead of facing it. You need that dopamine hit to make you feel better. In fact, I would argue that being connected, there's been some really great things about it. But the thing that being connected hasn't done is it hasn't produced more meaning. Being more connected hasn't produced more meaning in your life. It's maybe helped you connect with some people you wouldn't normally stay connected with, but overall, nobody says, man, I'm scrolling through TikTok every day and the doom scrolling is just producing such deep meaning in my heart. It's just making me become such a better person when I watch these people, building cabins or seeing how many straws they can stick up their nose. Like, that's really feeding my soul. We're losing our souls, I would argue, distracting ourselves into spiritual desolation, into a spiritual barrenness in our lives. Another way to say it is our social media feeds are full, but our souls are empty. What's the answer to all this? What do we do with that in our lives? What do we do with the fact that you are never alone, that you are always connected all the time? What do you do with that? Well, the answer is, I'm going to argue today, silence and solitude. And I'm going to share with you what Jesus had to say and how he practiced silence and solitude. And a lot of it's going to come from this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. If you've never read it, by John Mark Comer, you should read it. And there's a chapter in there that makes a strong, strong argument for this. A chapter that has been really convicting to me over the years since it came out. So what is silence and solitude? What does it actually mean? Does it mean you're supposed to put on your monk robes and, stay in a room and light incense and all? Like, what does that actually mean? Silence and solitude is intentional time in the quiet to be with ourselves and with God. Intentional time to be with ourselves and with God. And Jesus lived this out in his life on multiple occasions. It's all across the New Testament. And I'm going to take you on a very short journey today through so you have the opportunity to see how he practiced this in his everyday life. It starts from the very beginning. Jesus is about to begin his ministry and he decides to be baptized. He wants to be baptized and he says to John the Baptist, you should baptize me. And John says, no, Jesus, you should baptize me. And then Jesus says, no, you should baptize me. And Jesus, of course, won the argument. And then at the end of the day, Jesus gets baptized. And after he gets baptized, you would think he would be like, man, I feel amazing. I'm going to go out and preach to the whole world. And you flip it over to chapter 4, and it says this. It says, then Jesus was led by the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and nights he fasted and became very hungry. And during that time, the devil came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread." And what ends up happening here is Jesus ends up being tempted 3 times by the devil after 40 days of silence and solitude and fasting. And it says that Jesus went to the wilderness. And the word wilderness in the Greek is a word called eremos. That's your little Greek lesson for today. And eremos means desolate place, lonely place, wilderness, isolation, quiet place. It can mean all of those things. It doesn't mean like sand and cacti. It's not like a desert. It means a place of isolation, a place of solitude, a place of quiet. And often, when you would teach this passage, you would say, man, Jesus, in his most tired, he was so hungry, he was probably at his weakest point, he was able to resist the devil. But I don't actually think that's true. I wonder if that's true at all. Because I wonder if when Jesus finally went head to head with the devil, because you knew this was coming, that maybe after 40 days of solitude, Jesus wasn't at his weakest, he was at his strongest. See, solitude wasn't a sign of weakness in Jesus' life, but a source of spiritual strength. When Jesus needed to be spiritually strong, it's solitude that he chose. Let me show you another example of this. In Mark chapter 1, Jesus has this crazy day of ministry. It's like the beginning of his ministry. He picks some of his disciples. Then he heals like a whole bunch of people. Then there's somebody who's demon possessed. He gets the demon out of them, and he's preaching. I mean, that's one day. And this is what happens. At the end of the day, it says this: before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up after that one day and went out to an isolated place. The word here is eremos, to pray. Jesus thinks that being alone, being in solitude is so important that he gets up before it's even light outside. And you see Jesus having lots of naps in Scripture. You do see Jesus having naps, but he is choosing solitude over sleep. It says later, Simon and the others, they slept in. It's like 9 a.m. They go out to find him. And when they found him, they said, "Everyone is looking for you, Jesus." But Jesus replied, "We must go on to other towns as well, and I will preach to them too. That is why I came." After one day of ministry, Jesus says, I need to go to eremos, to the quiet place, to solitude and silence, before I go to the next place. And he says, so he traveled throughout the region of Galilee, preaching in the synagogues and casting out demons. But Jesus doesn't just practice solitude for himself. He also pushes his disciples to do the very same thing. Watch this. The apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour. This is in Mark 6. And told them all they had done and taught. They come back to Jesus and they say, Jesus, you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe what happened. We've been out there. We've been preaching. People's lives have been changed. We've been casting out demons. We've been healing people. We're just seeing the Holy Spirit work in incredible ways. We're doing all of these amazing things. Let's keep the ball rolling tomorrow, right? Let's keep this going. What do we do tomorrow? Who do we need to see? Where do we need to go? And it says this, then Jesus said to them, let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while. Let's go off to eremos. Let's go into a time of silence and solitude. And he said this because there were so many people coming and going that Jesus and his apostles didn't even have time to eat. You ever feel that way? You're so busy you don't have time to eat? Where are all my parents of toddlers? Right? Time to eat. I can't even go to the bathroom without them barging through the door. Jesus saying, he's so busy, we don't even have time to eat. So as a result, we need to choose to be more busy? No. We need to choose to fill our calendar? More? No. We need to choose to be more efficient, more productive? No. We need to choose to go away in silence and solitude. So they left by boat for eremos, a quiet place where they could be alone. But then there's a problem. But many people recognized them and saw them leaving, and people from many towns ran ahead along the shore to get there ahead of them. Ever feel that way? Ever feel like every time you get something done at work, somebody's got 5 other tasks for you? They're always getting ahead of you. And it says Jesus saw the huge crowd as he stepped from the boat, and he had compassion on them because they were sheep without a shepherd, and so he began to teach them many things. And so he teaches them all these things. And after he teaches them, as soon as he's done, immediately after this, Jesus insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and head across the lake to Bethsaida. He's like, now that we've taught these people, you guys need to get away from me. You get in the boat. Well, he sent the people home, and then it said, after telling everyone goodbye, Jesus went up into the hills by himself to pray. Jesus continued to choose silence and solitude. I'll give you one last example. Jesus heals this man with leprosy and tells him, don't tell anybody. Now, if Jesus healed you of leprosy and told you not to tell anyone, you tell everyone, right? Because that's what this guy did. I mean, obviously. But despite Jesus' instructions, the report of his power spread even faster, it says. And it says, and vast crowds came to hear him preach and to be healed of their diseases. But Jesus often withdrew to the eremos for prayer. Solitude and silence were not a mark of weakness for Jesus, but a source of strength. Now, I know today all the introverts here are going, finally, solitude and silence. You've been telling me to have meaningful friendships. Like, I'm totally zapped. But there's something different about this. There's something different about this. Now, the extroverts, you're getting it today. I understand that. We're all going to swallow this pill, but it's so important. But what we have to understand is, what is the difference between loneliness and solitude? Because there is a really big difference. Richard Foster wrote a book called Celebration of Discipline. It's a kind of a classic in Christian living and contemplative Christianity. And he says this: loneliness is inner emptiness. Solitude is inner fulfillment. Loneliness is inner emptiness. Solitude is inner fulfillment. See, one of the things I've shared with you in this series is that under your loneliness is a desire to be known. Under your loneliness, we all want to be known. And what solitude does is it gives us the gift of being known by yourself and being known by God. When is the last time, think about this, when is the last time you were by yourself, just with yourself? Just you, no phone, no screen, no people, no nothing, just you by yourself. Because I think we spend so little time even knowing ourselves that you don't even know who you are anymore. You don't know who you are without comparing yourself to somebody on social. You don't know who you are without looking at what your friends say about you. You don't know who you are because you don't know yourself, because you don't spend time with yourself, by yourself. You just don't want to be known by the people who are out there in meaningful relationships, but you need to be known by you. And some of you have spent so little time alone that you're losing track of who you are. It's part of what scares you about this. What about the last time? When is the last time you sat by yourself, just yourself and God? Just you and God. You see, this is what the rise of mindfulness is about. The rise of mindfulness is, man, I want to be present with myself. But silence and solitude, the spiritual practice, is so much more, because it's not just you present with yourself by yourself, but it's also you being present with God. It's not just you being alone, but you being filled. And you being present with the God of the universe, you and Him. Introvert or extrovert, there's a challenge in this for both of us. Silence and solitude is not Netflix and chill. It's not, oh man, I'm going to just go hang out by myself and do my favorite hobby. I mean, all those things are great. But what I'm talking about is you and God and nothing else. Do you know what? I think it is possible, if you are not intentional, to live your entire life without ever being truly by yourself. It's actually possible. With the devices that are in front of us, we have to be so intentional about this. And here's the scary question that's been raised to me as I've prepared for this message. Can you be serious about your spiritual life and never have silence and solitude? I mean, can you even be serious about it? Is your spiritual life even serious if you can't say, man, I set aside time in my life to just be alone with myself and God? When is the last time you were completely alone and present with yourself and God? When is the last time you were in that space where it was just you and Him and nobody else and nothing else? Because I know what happens. I know what happens. I'll just put it beside me. I'll put it on Do Not Disturb. I'll put it on, it'll be fine. Because what if they need me? What if someone needs me? And then before you know it, you can't help but pick this thing up. You can't help but turn that thing on. You can't help yourself. I know what it is to go, man, this is a painful moment for me. This is a hard day. This is a hard moment. I don't like what I'm feeling. We just had an argument. And the thing we want to do is pick this up and escape. And pick this up and get one more like, or one more hit, or one more piece of entertainment. If I could just soothe my soul with one more crazy VR video of people smashing into the wall. When if it's the last time you've been alone? Just you. With yourself and with God. See, because when we talk about the series title, Not Alone, but Lonely, the loneliness is a problem, but the not ever alone is also a problem, isn't it? And that's the thing that we need to be intentional about, or else it kills your soul. I think of sitting alone and praying things like Psalm 139. It says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." It's just you and me. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. Search me, God. It's just you and me. Where it says in Psalm 46, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I am God. See, for those of you who would call yourself Christians, I know that's not everybody here, and if you're exploring faith here, this is good news for you. From the very beginning of this series, what I share with you is God so badly wants to have a relationship with you. You want to be known, and He wants to know you. And as a result of His desire to know you, He sent his Son, knowing that he was holy and we're broken and sinful, sent his Son that we might have a relationship with him, that we could find forgiveness, that we could be made whole, that we could be in his presence, and we could have a relationship with him, and that Jesus could call us friend. But in order to have a friend, you have to spend time with them. What's a friendship if you don't ever spend time together? And here's the thing about God's desire for friendship with you. God doesn't just love you. He likes you. He wants to be with you. He wants to know you and be known by you. In John 15, Jesus said this. He said, "There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you slaves because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends, since I have told you everything the Father told you." With all of the noise and all of the connection and all of the apps and all of the things that we're all connected to every day, with all of the noise in your life, if God did speak, would you know his voice? Because the way to know his voice is to position yourself to hear it. It's silence and in solitude. Because solitude isn't a sign of weakness. It's a source of spiritual strength. Now, this week, I could tell you, this is what I want you to do this week. Every day, 10 minutes of silence, okay? Between X time and X time. You find 10 minutes, you're going to do it 7 days this week, and it would be actually very like me to do that. But here's what I'm realizing that will do. It will take this relationship and turn it into a checklist. And what will end up happening is like, I did my 10 minutes. What kind of relationship was that? For those of you who are married, do you have a relationship like that with your spouse? Well, we did our 10-minute conversation today, check, and then tomorrow we'll do another one, check. I mean, maybe you need to start there, but that's not much of a relationship because it's built on what? Guilt, shame. Got to get through my task list, one more thing to do. So I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to tell you to choose to build silence and solitude into your life. And don't cheat, because I know some of you will cheat. But why do you cheat? Why do you always have to have music on? Why do you always have to have the TV on? Why does there always have to be noise? And for some of you, parents, you're going to have an intentional conversation because you're going to need the other one to help you out so you can get this time. You're going to need to trade off so you can get it. But to trade off the time so that you can go watch episode 13 of 25 of whatever Netflix show you're watching, that's not what we're looking for here. No phone. Solitude and silence for just 10 minutes. Now, what will happen for some of you is you'll have no outer noise, but there'll be lots of inner noise. As soon as you sit down in silence and solitude, it's like, search me, O God, and know my heart. Oh yeah, heart, right? Like I gotta get some cereal because the Cheerios are good for your heart, and then like boom, boom. And what about? And then oh yeah, I gotta call my dad. And I don't even say that might happen. That is gonna happen. That is gonna happen. And that's what I mean by a meaningful relationship with yourself and with God is not something you fall into, it's something you have to fight for. You've got to fight for a relationship with yourself. You've got to fight for a relationship with God. And that means being persistent and saying, okay, I'm going to set that aside. God, I mean, if you need to have a piece of paper and a pencil and you write that down, you set it to the side, then you do that. But you can't sit there and go, what else do I need to think of? And then write more on the list. That's cheating. But you set that aside and you go, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep pursuing this. I'm going to fight for a relationship with myself, and I'm going to fight for a relationship with God, because at the end of the day, I want a soul that's fulfilled. I want to live in relationship with a God who wants to know me. I want to be fully known and fully loved. And this is worth it. And think about it. If Jesus, the Son of God, relied on solitude and silence so that he could walk out the door with spiritual strength, how much more than you and I need to do that? And why was that so powerful? It's because that's where he connected with a God who wanted to know him, and who knew him and loved him. And you know what? When you choose to surrender your life to Jesus, when God looks at you, he sees you the way he sees Jesus, and wants a relationship with you in the exact same way. And if you're looking for something to think about in your 10 minutes of solitude, think about that. He just loves you. He likes you. Let me pray for you. God, we come today and we thank you for your love for us and your desire to be in relationship with us. And God, our lives get so noisy, and it's so easy for me, I confess, to make an excuse that, oh, it's the culture, it's the world, it's the things out there that are vying for my time. They're the problem. But I make my own choices. Give us the courage to be countercultural and choose solitude and choose silence and choose to connect with you. God, help us to fight for meaningful relationships in our life. Not just with those around us, but with ourselves and with you. That we might live a life fulfilled, and we might invite others into that same life. And we pray this in your name. Amen.